Thank you. Good afternoon, Sheffield. We came in a little bit late because we just wanted to ensure the auditorium was reasonably full. It's very full, thank you. Unfortunately, the house lights are down, but we do know that this session has been open to members of the public. So do you want to wave? Because I know you've paid money to be here, just so we know who we really have to satisfy the restaurant call.
Oh
hey, well,
God.
thank you very, very much indeed. Well, hopefully you're in for a real treat for the next hour. And before I get on to that, did anybody go to the Wow Ball last night? Hey! Well, I was just chatting in the green room, and Randy said, I said, how was last night? He said, well, I can't really remember. And I said, I can't really remember. And he said, I was just so drunk, Dawn. He said, I got into an Uber to take me back to the Radisson, and I sort of realised when I looked at what the cost of the bill was going to be, 134 quid, that they thought it was the Radisson Manchester. It was that drunk. Now, if you ended up in the Radisson Manchester, we might not be here now. So really, really, really thrilled. So, like I said, we're aiming to entertain you for the next hour with two of the most glorious human beings that I know, and I've had the privilege of knowing as friends for sort of over 30 years. The co-founders of the iconic World of Wonder, Fenton Bailey and Randy Barbato. They are literally the kings and the queens of popular culture and have remained true to their mission of giving a voice to outsiders who live on the fringe, who create beauty out of chaos. Now, I know in true Fenton and Randy style, they want this session to be focused on the future. But I'm not prepared to go there until we've had a truly celebratory review of the past, boys. So please indulge me in giving you both a good old glow job for the next few minutes. Now,
Oh, my God.
Fenton, you were described by Graham Norton as the Forrest Gump of tabloid culture. Now, I think that was a compliment. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it was. And Randy, Variety, said, you are a master out of making the subversive feel joyful and the joyful feel revolutionary. And IndieWire said of the both of you, they turned camp into capital. That means money. But never sold out the soul of it. And those are testimonies that I think are extraordinary and should be celebrated. Don't we all agree? Yes. Wow. Now, I could do a roll call of all of their productions, but if so, that would be, for those folks who've paid real money, you probably think, what was that worth? What was that all about? Just reading out everything they've done. So, what I'm going to do is going to ask you to indulge me just for a minute, and I'm just going to call out some of the titles that really demonstrate what cultural alchemists that you choose. And these are my favourites. Okay, these are my favourites, so I'm interviewing, so I can be a tad indulgent. But I do want you to go, woo, if you've heard any of these titles, and indeed have watched them, so we sort of know how informed you are. So I don't want you to pretend you're our best friends if you're not really. Okay, so let's go. The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Right. Vogue, The Editor's Eye. That's so 101 Rent Boys. That's interesting. As I'm listening to the tone of the woo. Video Killed the Radio Star. The Real Ellen Story. Come on, lesbians in the room. Come on, yes! Party Monster. Yay! Manhattan Cable. We're going to age people now. Manhattan Cable. Yay. Good. Takeover TV. Hey. Transgeneration. Well done. Becoming Chaz. Pornography, The History of Civilization. Yeah, that always gets a laugh even whether you watch it or not. Inside Deep Throat. Monica in Black and White. Shock Video. Should have, it was great. Anyway, right in that, we'll probably talk about Shock Video later. And then I'm going to cluster these series on Hitler, O.J. Simpson, Andy Warhol, Robert Mapplethorpe, the Menendez brothers. Great, fantastic. Wow. And then, if you all don't go woo, even if you're paid, you can leave the room. So, the franchise that is the Drag Race. Hey! Okay, so I think we've got fans in the room. That was the most important thing. But you're not content with producing for others. You're greedy. You've built your own subscription service. It's a bit of a mouthful. It's called Wow Presents Plus. Wow PPP. Or Wow PP.
Wow PP.
Wow PP. I should have guessed.
Wow,
Should we just
PP?
call it PP? So is that
Wow,
just
maybe.
wow. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, we're going to get onto that later. I've listed just some of your hits. The roll call is extraordinary. So, Fenton, you're a Brit.
Yes.
You graduate from Oxford, and you head to New York, and that's where you met Randy at film school.
Yep.
And tell us how you got together. I'm talking about professionally, but if you want to share personally, I'm sure the audience would like to know. But professionally, tell me how it began. Back in the 80s.
1980 something. I remember walking into the lobby of NYU Film School, and almost the first person I saw was Randy. And he still is, but he was very good looking. And I was like, oh, wow, And our film teacher, who was a very old school he'd shot Kenneth Anger's films and was sort of that sort of generation, he took one look at both of us and said, I want you both in my class. Because we weren't in the same class. And from that point on, we were put together. Arnie, I think the first film we made was an exercise where you had to make a music video. And he said, when my film showed, he said, oh, Fenton, you give great head.
Pardon?
And I was like, what?
Said that?
Yes. Well, I had no idea what he meant. I was like, I didn't know what head was in the 1980s, But everybody else thought it was hilarious. And I suppose that's an irrelevant detail to how Randy and I became friends, but we did, and we started actually...
Well, there is a detail that he is not including, because I do remember the moment he's talking about when we first met, the first day of school, and it was like two of these things are not like the others. Fenton was wearing these fluorescent leopard skin tight pants. He had on like a light blue, like a baby blue powdered sweater. His hair, he had hair. A lot of it. And it was up in a bun. And he had a pearl necklace. And I think a diamond earring in one of your, right?
Yes. Can we move on?
No, I was going to say, love at first sight, clearly. You remember those little details. But you were only at film school, if my research is correct, for a year. You bailed out. Mm-hmm. Now, it was the 80s. You were living in East Village. New York in the 80s must have been phenomenal in terms of you think about what was going on there. We had Madonna sort of crashing into the world of pop with Material World. We had Bonfire of the Vanities and Michael Wolff, and we got Wolf of Wall Street. And New York seemed a really, really, really exciting place. So how much of that informed we're out of here in a year? I'd like to understand why you left one of the world's leading film schools after a year.
I mean, everything. I mean, New York was so important to us, and it was such a critical time, an exciting time. We lived right in the East Village. NYU's School of the Arts was right in the East Village. We were surrounded by artists, and art galleries were popping up everywhere, and we were part of that scene. And, of course, drag queens. There was a bar around the corner from where we went to film school, and Fenton and I used to cut classes. It was called the Pyramid, and that's where all the drag queens went. And it was kind of the beginning of everything for us, right? Mm-hmm. It was the beginning of World of Wonder, actually.
Plus, we also thought, rather than stay at film school, we should become pop stars.
Oh yeah, we're going to get onto Pop-Tarts. But
okay, well, no, don't.
No,
please,
no,
it's
we'll
fine.
do.
We can move on.
So you decide you want to be pop. You can't just leave that hanging there. You decide you want to become pop stars because actually you do have a pop career.
No, the thing about the pop star thing was really just an idea. Like, we were like, how can we make money to build World of Wonder? We didn't really want a pop career. We just thought, this could be a shortcut. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous because we really couldn't. We weren't pops.
Well, you looked like it. There's a great, cool. We should have had them. There's some great, cool photos of you two, as the Pop Tarts. That was the name of their band, Pop Tarts.
Fabulous Pop Tarts.
The Fabulous Pop Tarts. So, but you didn't do that. But when you left film school, even though you were saying, okay, we formed a band. The intent was so we can make some money. Obviously, that didn't work out because you, Fenton, went to work. Was right for a bank, and you went to work for an ad agency. So tell us about that and what you were doing there, and that because that was a big contributor to the start of World of Wonder, and how you abused your positions at those two companies.
We did, yes.
I know you did. But
well, it was the bank was Drexel Burnham Lambert, which was this upstart bank doing junk bonds with this mega financier Michael Milken, who was funding the hostile takeover of corporate America. And I was just editing corporate videos about these companies. I knew nothing, I didn't know what a junk bond was. But then gradually, Ivan Boesky, who said greed is good, he became the sort of subject of this insider trading scandal. And as the investigation closed in, it closed in on Drexel Burnham Lambert, Michael Milken. Yeah. I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, I am sitting right in the crosshairs of this enormous investigation. And I think it was Randy's idea. We had a mutual friend who said, there's a documentary here. And that's when we met. The man who really changed so much of our lives was Michael Atwell, who was a commissioning editor at Channel 4. And we made a documentary for him about Wall Street. But then he said, I'm in charge of late night TV. Have you got anything else for me?
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah, but before we get to
yes,
I don't want to interrupt your story.
Oh, okay.
That was all about you. Okay, that was all about you in the bank. That's really interesting.
Yes.
I didn't know that story, that resulted in the doc on Milken. But you were working in an ad agency.
Well, I was working at an ad agency. See, the thing was, we needed to pay our rent. And so this was all about paying our rent. And in the evening, we would go out and DJ, and we were still connected to that whole scene in the East Village. The ad agency I was working at was corporate real estate advertising agency. So that was the beginning of the real estate obsession, which would manifest itself later on. So both of these jobs were really there to pay rent while we continued to have come up with schemes. And also it was a place for us to get free office supplies and stuff like that.
I told you. Well, that's very honest. Fantastic. Okay, so let's go. Again, we're going to step back before we get into Michael Atwell and the commissioning. Although it's quite interesting that there are you in America, but you go to the UK to get your first commission. We'll come back to that because that's something I want to explore a bit more. But I also want to pick up on, you said that you were so much going on in New York in the 80s. And they had this bar opposite, where drag was big, and then for you it was a natural magnet. How did, because your friendship with Ru goes back decades, and Fenton, you said you always had sort of two obsessions, which was drag and friendship with RuPaul. Did you meet RuPaul in that bar? How did that first meeting come about? Because it was long before.
We didn't meet him in the bar. We have two different versions of where we met him. Mine's the accurate one.
How'd you?
But we saw him in the bar all the time, and we hung out. We met him at, I believe we met him at, and so does Ru. At the New Music Seminar, which was this place in New York where young wannabe pop stars would go and try and get the attention of A&R people. And Ru was there as well, wearing a jock strap, thigh-high waiter boots. He was doing like gender fuck drag. Sorry.
New term.
And
Gender fuck drag.
yeah. And we became instant friends. And that was the beginning of it, yeah.
So that's your version. So it's always good to have the alternative version.
My version is more cinematic, I would say. We were in Atlanta performing as the Pop-Tarts.
Right.
And Dick Richards, who ran the local record label, was taking us around town, driving us around, showing us the city. And we turned a corner, and in the car's headlights, there was this enormously tall figure wheat pasting posters on a wall. And the poster said, RuPaul is everything. And it was RuPaul. Wheat pasting photos of himself. And Dick was like, oh, that's RuPaul. And then Ru introduced us when we performed at Club Rio. And Ru's introduction was so good and so funny and compelling, it was really hard to go on stage.
Yeah.
It was like, what are we doing? You know, and I wouldn't say that was the last gig we ever played, but it was sort of a writing on the wall moment, you know, that we probably weren't the next Pet Shop Boys.
So that's when you met him.
Wow.
Did you know that he had the potential to be a global superstar? Because you started off repping him, didn't you? You were his agent. Is that right?
His manager, yeah.
Manager. So tell me how that came about, from him introducing you to you repping him.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we knew. There was, I mean, he just has always had this incredible presence, and he was fully baked. I mean, he would, you know, everybody say love. Everything you hear from him now, he was saying and doing back then. But then also, Ru came to us and said, I want you guys to manage us. And Fenton was the one who said yes. I was like very nervous about it because I knew it just meant, I kind of really liked him. He was our friend, and I was worried about letting him down and not being able to do it.
And also, we'd had this unsuccessful pop career, so why would you go to them and ask them to manage
It's a
you?
pity he's not here. We could ask him. But
And actually, it almost came to grief because we sent the demo Supermodel, the demo song, out to all the labels, and it was like, nope. I mean, that was the last one, right? Monica Lynch at Tommy Boy Records called up and said, this RuPaul song, like, and it was one of those times in your life when you think you get a call and someone's trying to tell you something, and you are convinced it's a prank. We just couldn't believe it. We were really at the end of the road, and we're going to be like, Ru, I'm so sorry. We can't do anything here. And she's like, I'm trying to tell you, I want to release the song, you know.
Fantastic.
And that's, yeah.
By the way, when he came to ask us to manage him, he also had a list of all the things that he wanted to accomplish.
It's global stardom right up there.
No, but like book, you know, write a book, do Vegas, cosmetics, like almost everything on the list has been checked off.
Really smart businessman, as well as a great performer. Right, we're going to come back to the RuPaul story, but we're going to pick up next from what you said when you said you met Michael Atwell was really important, and Michael Atwell sort of was looking for stuff for late night on Channel 4. I'm going to go back to New York and public access TV, because that sort of gave you both an opportunity and an insight to what was going on subculturally in the US, and particularly in New York. And I think Ring Your Bell, am I right in thinking, came out of that, and then Channel 4 commissioned you to do Manhattan Cable for their late night strand. So talk to me about public access TV and how important that platform was for you then to get to really start the trajectory of the extraordinary performance of your business.
You know, it was this time, MTV was just launching and was a profoundly different experience. Cronenberg had just released Videodrome, which is this sort of horror film about cable television and its powers of persuasion. And we were watching these public access shows that were just very much like the stuff in Videodrome. They were completely weird and wacky. They weren't commercially supported in terms of having advertisers. And the whole idea of public access was that to operate a cable franchise, the cable company had to make channels available to the public, who on a first-come, first-served, you just made the show, gave it to the cable company, and they had to show it. And that was like, that was weird. And as a result, the shows that people made, they were homemade shows, not necessarily very good production values, but they were so compelling. And we would just watch that all the time. In fact, we had our own show for 4 episodes called Flaunt It TV, and we were very excited. It was a talk show, and we had Zig Sputnik on, who were then the Happening Band, and Quentin Chris. And yeah, there were only 4 episodes.
And there were only 2 guests.
But you had to pay for it. And you had to pay for it.
Yes, you had to make it
pay for
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make it yourself and take it along to the...
So an early form of internet, really.
And yes, exactly. I mean, it was pre-internet, it was back in the last century. And, you know, everything that we are used to now, YouTube, TikTok, it was kind of that.
Yeah.
But back then, it was so fresh. And so the series, you know, Manhattan Cable was just licensing. We made friends with all those people who we were obsessed with and licensed clips from their shows.
Yeah. And you went to Channel 4 to
Yeah.
do it. So tell me about that relationship. Back to, you're a Brit, an American, your production company's in America, but you keep coming to the UK to get commissions. Okay, we'll talk about, obviously, HBO and how important that was, but clearly I know Channel 4 and BBC Two were instrumental in sort of your early commissions. Tell me about that relationship and why you came to the UK and couldn't get it away from the US, even though the US was where you were going for a lot of your content and your ideas.
We took the idea for Manhattan Cable to PBS, and they were very like, what is this? They were like, you're making fun of people, this is trash. You know, there was no place for it in the States. I don't think any of the cable channels, the regular cable channels, wanted anything to do with public access. And also, Channel 4 had been, what was it, 84, 82 it launched?
Yeah.
It was new, and it was specifically to provide for unheard voices. Were you at Channel 4 from the beginning?
No.
But you came along,
Close to the
right?
beginning.
Yeah.
Close to the beginning.
And it was, it's to me, it's like an example of complete happenstance that of all the weird things to be working in an investment bank that ends up being the target of an insider trading investigation that leads to a documentary that then the commissioning editor, Michael Atwell, who's in because Caroline Thompson was on maternity leave. I mean, because Michael Atwell, he won't mind me, he was a big puff.
He'd love that.
Yes,
Like,
I mean,
be the biggest.
I mean, and we just all hit it off because we were, I don't know that it would have gone as well with Caroline, you know, and he was like, well, never mind this junk bond stuff. What else have you got for late night? Yeah. It was
Channel 4 did its best in what it should be doing. But
Yeah.
you're also being very successful on the BBC as well, getting stuff away.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was, I mean, also part of the UK thing was Fenton. Because like in the US at that time, to get into the media or to break into television was really difficult. And, but it seemed like Fenton met a few people in college and stuff like that, right? I mean, didn't that help a little bit?
A lot. You gave very famous people.
Roly Keating, who recently was the head of the British Light, Sir Roly Keating, lovely guy. We were at university together, and he gave us a break to make a program, a piece about Wigstock for the Late Show, which was quite radical, really, to do, I think.
Yeah.
Lots of drag queens in all this early work, by the way.
The consistent theme,
Yeah.
DNA through, drag all the way through. So, but having said that, loads of stuff, you were working, Fenton, you were working this side of the pond. You were also getting some really great commissions. And when I think about you, I always think HBO seemed to me to be, if there was one place that was absolutely got what you did, and hopefully gave you advantage because you delivered great documentaries for them, was HBO. So talk about the HBO relationship, the work that you did with the great Sheila Evans, who's sat here, I'm sure, on many occasions and entertained and wowed everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that was, we made a documentary for Michael, I believe, called Video Vigilantes and Voyeurism, and it was all about the camcorder revolution. And Sheila Evans saw that and just called us up out of the blue and asked us in for a meeting. It was like one of those dream moments. And we went in, and she, of course, wanted to change the title. She wanted to pick up the film and then change it and change the title and to Shock Video, which was smart. I mean, are you going to watch Shock Video or Video Vigilantes?
Yeah, Shock Video, every time.
And then that was the beginning of a very long relationship. And we, you know, so much of our work, our serious documentary work, has been with HBO and still is. I mean, we're doing a lot of stuff.
And are they interesting? Are they a broadcast? Because what you said right, it would seem it was very hard then to get commissions. It's really hard now, I suspect, to those producers in the room as well, to get commissions, potentially even harder. But you did continually deliver shows that were getting noticed and rated and were sort of cutting-edge cultural zeitgeist. Did that give you any advantage in terms of, oh, you delivered that, this, of course, we'll take the next show from you? Or did you, every time you went into commissions, it was like, clean slate, sing for your supper?
I would say it was very helpful in that we could get into the room, but I think there was always a feeling that everything we were doing was just beyond the pale, and we'd gotten away with it this time, but the next idea just wouldn't fly. I mean, Shock Video is a kind of interesting case in point, because the first one was this sort of essay about camcorders and social justice, and it was all in the wake of the Rodney King beating that, you know, transformed life so much. But after a couple of those, Sheila was like, no, sex on TV. And so we would have to go, we went and found all the sex programs on all the channels around the world and put it into a kind of compilation package. And as I think Sheila said, it rated its tits off.
Well, there's a surprise. That's what I used to say.
And it was great until there was a point, Shock Video 10, I think, where the lawyer who had to lawyer the show called up and said that he had vomited into his waste paper basket. And the reason was...
True story. This is a true story.
A British TV show called Enema Camp.
Oh, makes me want to vomit. I haven't even seen it.
So Shock Video 10 was never shown, and that was the end of that franchise, maybe just as well. So.
Popular genius, wasn't she, Sheila?
Yes.
Or is Sheila? I'm speaking this past tense. She's very much live and kicking. Have broadcasters... have they funded your shows? I mean, have you been able to get most shows fully funded? Because I look at the world and think, when I started in telly sort of 40 years ago, we sort of paid for everything. Something came along and we liked it. You sort of fully funded it. And then I've just seen things getting gradually, well, we all have, gradually harder, and you have to bring co-production money, deficit fund stuff. How have you found that journey for yourselves in terms, because you've done a really interesting mixture. It's not just factual and docs, you've done dramas, and trying to get the money together has been, I know, not without challenge.
Well, I don't want to jump ahead, but I think when we started our careers, we would always try and get things fully funded. I mean, we had nothing, that was the only way for us to put food on the table, and we had nothing to invest. But we started bit by bit to, if we couldn't sell an idea, even the Eyes of Tammy Faye, we were so obsessed with it, and we couldn't get a partner in, so we just started shooting. Like Fenton and I went, she was in Palm Springs, and we went with a little camcorder and started filming her. And then people would come on. But today, all of that has I think today everyone is open for anything. In other words, like broadcasters used to want to own everything, and they still basically do, but I think they're open to the potential of partners. They're open to, there's more opportunity to go out, not just to broadcasters, but either to, to brands, to other organizations, or to piecemeal distribution, and in a way that I don't think they used to be.
I think that's true, yeah. And I remember with Eyes of Tammy Faye, we did do shoots that we needed to rent equipment for, and we were like, oh my God, it's so expensive to rent the cameras, so why don't we, during the day, we'll shoot Tammy Faye, and at night, we'll shoot something else. And we shot 101 Rent Boys using the same equipment, and we would send Darren out to go up and down Santa Monica Strip, get the Rent Boys, bring them to a motel room, and film them at night, and then the next morning start up again and filming Tammy Faye.
Bloody hell. So real entrepreneurship from both of you, driven out of necessity.
Yes, and I think that the weird, amazing thing now is that, YouTube for a while were funding premium content, like Stonewall Out Loud, they paid for, and they said, we will pay you to make this, and you can put it on your YouTube channel, which is like, oh my God.
Fantastic.
It's insane.
Hallelujah.
But then they stopped. And the reason they stopped was because they said, people are making premium content themselves. They don't need us to pay them to do it, which is, it's good and bad, I guess, but it shows you that people are able to make really good stuff with your. You can do really, really good stuff with
a business model that is changing, and people are able to do that, and in success make money.
Yeah. Okay. So, Tammy Faye, the Eyes of Tammy Faye, which you funded yourself, told us how scrappy you were putting it together. Jessica Chastain wins an Oscar for it. I mean, how simply amazing was that? Yeah. But you said you learnt from that the one thing that Tammy Faye and Jim were really good at were understanding their audience. And they built out an amazing, loyal audience. And they realized they could sell them pretty much anything because they were so goddamn loyal. How much of what you observe with Tammy Faye actually partly informed? Sorry, partly
I knew this was a bad idea.
Partly informed.
Randy, I said we shouldn't have Dawn do this.
Partly informed.
Praise the
what
Lord.
You did with Drag Race, of when you realised actually, fans of drag and that world are obsessive and just cannot get enough of it. So how do we super sell them?
Our attraction to Tammy Faye was Tammy Faye. Yeah. It was not their business model.
No, but it was an interesting
But she still, to this day, inspires us deeply because I think she was so misunderstood. And spending the amount of time we spent with her, she, yes, she was flawed, and yes, she wore fur coats, and she looked great. But she was deeply spiritual, and she never judged anyone. And we were with her when she was completely, like, there wasn't a camera rolling, she wasn't performing, and she would gravitate towards people who were alone, towards people like, in an airport, you'd find her talking to, I don't know, someone in a wheelchair.
There was that scene that maybe we were filming in Washington, and those schoolgirls were calling her butt cheeks.
Yes.
And
she go and say,
okay. They were like laughing at her, and it was very sort of awkward. But then Tammy just went over to them and said, "Come on, let's get a picture," and everybody took a group picture, and it went from these mean girls just eating out of the palm of her hand. It was so.
The point is that our attraction to her is her philosophy that God doesn't make junk. That we believe that drives everything we do, And the fact that she was involved in this huge scandal just makes her and her life more complicated. I do think I don't think she was as aware of what was going on. She had to be partially aware of it, yes. She benefited from it. People are complicated, and that's part, I mean, the whole package is attractive to me, actually. Like a fabulous mess.
So, not that you'd say Rue was a fabulous mess, but we're going to segue, if we can, from...
But also Tammy said that she was a drag queen. I mean, she owned that, and I think in many ways...
What do you think she meant by that?
Well, I think the power of drag is a sense of revealing yourself through dressing up. You know, Rue often says of drag that it's not a disguise, it's actually a way to, like, show yourself, which is an interesting reversal of I guess, what is commonly considered to be drag. And also, I think drag isn't really necessarily about gender. It's about this sort of living your fantasy or creating an image that you want to put out there. So I think that's what she meant by it.
But it's still a great segue into Drag Race. So tell us the story, because I think this is what probably a lot of people in this room are here for. Is tell us the story, how you, you knew the potential for drag, but how you created Drag Race and the long, long, long journey that you had for it leading up to the extraordinary global success that it is now. Take us through that. Yeah, how you came up with the idea, first broadcaster to take it, rolling it out to other broadcasters, then we'll get on to World of Wonder Plus.
It is a long story. And as you were asking that question, I was thinking, the thing about World of Wonder is just, there are all these amazing people who work there. People have worked there for 25, 30 years. Our former assistants, one of them is the showrunner of Drag Race. The other one, so it really... It's not a singular effort. And there is someone who works for us, our creative chief officer, Tom Campbell, who after years of us trying to do some kind of reality show with Rue and pitching it around and not having any success, was like, we should try, let's do something. And, he was a lot of the creative driving force of repackaging a pitch to take out, which of course everyone said no to, right?
They did, and it was we'd done a show, was it Viva Hollywood?
Yes.
A show that was sort of a reality show based on a cast in a sort of Hollywood, not a Hollywood,
soap opera.
Those Latin soap operas.
Yes.
Telenovelas. It was a show we'd done for Logo, which
Right.
was the gay channel, a little tiny channel, and the climactic, there's various challenges, blah, 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 and the climactic thing is they'd have to enact a scene together. These two soap stars, one's up for elimination, the other one's going to stay, and in the script that they get handed right before they film it, one of them dies and one of them lives. And it was this great twist, but it could,
It was like the lip sync for your life.
It's the lip sync for your, yeah. My point being, it's a collaborative effort that came out of there were bits and pieces. In fact, Drag Race is itself as a format like a drag queen. It's like, I'll take this, we'll take this, we'll take this, we'll take this, and voila, Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race.
Who commissioned it first? Who did you convince?
It was Logo.
It was Logo. It was Logo.
It was Brian Graydon who was running Logo at the time. Do you remember? Did you know Brian Graydon?
No, but I knew of him.
He's amazing. He greenlit South Park. I mean, he's kind of a legendary gay executive / producer.
And then when did it start to roll out? When did you realize this was going to be franchised, formatted around the world? How
that was a long time.
Exactly, but I'm really interested in the journey, and I'm sure the audiences, the producers in the room, take us, how long was it? 10 years, 50? I mean,
I think it was 10 years, because 2009 was the first one, and then the first franchise was actually Thailand, but all that time, I would keep coming over and pitching Channel 4, BBC, Sky, and they really got sick of me. And Michelle Visage was also really active in pitching it. And it was pure chance. I think it was 16, 17?
16.
Yes, and BBC Three had not done any entertainment shows or factual shows, and it just so happened that the meeting I went into that day, Ruby Koresh was there. Joe Wallace, the commissioning editor, wasn't available for the meeting. I pitched Ruby. I was like, here goes nothing, for the zillionth time. And Ruby said, oh, that's interesting, because we just started doing factual. And, that was it.
So it's for me, what's extraordinary about that story is there you have a tangible hit that is taking the fringes to the mainstream, and you don't actually have broadcasters clamoring to you. That you're still having to pitch actively say, what do we need to do to get...
Fenton was going all over the world for over a decade, trying to get people to pick up Drag Race. And in many territories, it was like, okay, well, we'll co-produce. We'll chip in. And so there were each territory is sort of a different deal and a different configuration. But it was really Fenton in a suitcase.
Well, it should give everybody heart who's producers in this room that if you've got an idea that you believe in, just keep going. It's sort of staggering. And again, it shows your resilience and your focus and testimony to what good businessmen you are. But I think one of the interesting things about many interesting things you've done about Drag Race, and I know you invited me very, very early on to go to DragCon in New York, and I went to that in the Javits Center and was completely blown away, not by the number of drag queens who were there and the sheer number of attendees, but how commercial it was. This was a money-making machine. You'd got something, and here was a live experience that folks were prepared to pay for. When did you turn on to the fact that actually, when you do have a very, very, very dedicated community, and they have an insatiable appetite for a subject matter, an individual, a world, that actually we can make a lot of money out of that? And how did you build out those skills? Because clearly you have, in terms of merchandising to the nth degree, Drag Race.
Well, just to tack on to one thing is that Randy has always said, where did it come from? Randy says, no is the beginning of yes. And that's sort of, if someone says no, we just...
Except in some cases.
I love the optimism of you two. No is the beginning of yes. I'm going to use that later. I'll credit you with it.
And then in terms of the commercial thing, I think it was more, not so much making a lot of money, actually, as the realization that I think this speaks to what's happening right now, is that it's important, and I think this also, funnily enough, speaks to PTL and Tammy Faye. I don't think it's actually necessarily about the money. I think that in both cases, what they share in common is engagement, and that the audience is not a passive receiver of a program or something, but they are part of a community, and that they feel they belong to something. And I think, as we go more and more into a world in which we're watching screens more and more of the time, because I don't believe, too much is, how much is too much? I think the future is more, even more screens. Even when you drive your car, the car is basically a screen now. You're like watching you're looking at the road and you can see it on the dashboard, like as you're driving on, you see like people walking towards you and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Instead of looking out the window, you're watching the screen.
Bang!
Right. But as we go further and further into that, in a way that we're connected, but also paradoxically alone, watching a screen, things where people feel they belong to something, I think are really crucial and more valuable than ever.
Yeah.
It's funny. The community thing, I think, is the key, and it is what motivates us. The idea of exploring the business connected to Drag Race is very much inspired by the drag queens themselves, even the idea of merchandising and all that. I mean, to be a drag queen is to be a business person who knows how to brand. And so in some ways, we take our cues from them. But that notion of how important your community is, for us, it extends beyond Drag Race, because so much of our content, we think, if you like this, you'll like that. Like, Drag Race is about no judgment. It is about the tenacity of the human spirit. It is, all those things that may sound corny, but I think people really want to connect with. And I think so much of the rest of our content is as well. So for us, it makes sense to build that community from, just to satisfy our own desires, but also from a business perspective.
Yeah, God, listen, there's nothing wrong with making money. Nothing that being a motivator, as you know. I won't ask how much money you've made, but I hope it's enormous, because you deserve it.
Oh my God.
But did
She's so good.
we can have a guess how many millions, but no, you'll kick me for that. I won't do that. Multi-millions, tens of millions. I hope so. You should do. Bloody hell.
We reinvest
So tell me, so listen, you do not have to justify. Say, yes, thank you very much.
TV is
really
not
hard.
what it was.
No, well, I'm going to get onto that. Because World of Wonder, or World of Wonder Plus. So you have this platform, and yes, you've got a lot of your library content on it, but there's a lot of extensions, variety of Drag Race. So tell me about what took you to launching your own channel under WOPP.
I think part of it was, with Drag Race, as it became more successful in the States, we were like, well, this is great, because either Logo will do more related shows, or other networks will. And we found very quickly that actually the answer to that was no. And I remember we actually got so frustrated early on, this isn't Brian Graydon at all, that we went to Viacom in New York to say, why won't you build programming around Drag Race? And the answer, I honestly can't remember the name of the executive, but he said, look, he's like, Drag Race is a fluke. It's guilty. It's a guilty pleasure.
It's a guilty pleasure.
And we feel we've got quite enough of that. Thank you. What we want more of is rock the vote, And so it was very clear. And it took, and there's no shade to Viacom at all, but it took a while for it to go from Logo to VH1 to MTV. And that was because of an executive called Chris McCarthy, who joined and was like, this show is bigger than Logo, and we're going to move it over. And then he moved it over to MTV, where, humble brag, it is the #1 rated original show on MTV.
Hey!
Go on.
So, does neatly lead into, when we look at the traditional world of television, and traditional broadcasters are trying to get clearly closer to their audiences with all sorts of digital extensions and content available, like you say, wherever you want it on whatever platform. But do you see a world, because you've now got your own subscribers. You are what, in an old-fashioned, in some ways, a broadcaster. You've got a business model, you've got an audience, they pay. I'm sure it's profitable. I hope it's profitable. Can you see a future where actually you don't need traditional broadcasters? You will just actually, because your brand is so famous, our content is on our own platform, and we can cut out the broadcaster.
No, I don't see that. I mean, I see a world where there's more community with broadcasters, with producers, with streamers. I mean, I think people are going to I know now there's some outlets that are very specific about their needs and aren't that negotiable. But I think increasingly, everyone needs one another in our industry. As the ship is sinking, I think people need to hold on to one another. So, for example, we'll happily do a deal for a second window, and we don't need to. So we might co-finance something that a streamer can take or another outlet can take, and we'll wait for 3 years, and it's worth it for us because it fits and would be nice, sit nicely on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And I do think increasingly people are going to find ways to work with one another as the industry continues to evolve.
Interesting. You seeing that as well?
I completely agree. I think that, one of the models with Wow Presents Plus is we'll do Drag Race in the Philippines, for example, and we'll say to a local broadcaster, well, you'll pay for it mostly. You'll get it in your territory, which is where you'll have the biggest audience because it's purpose-made for your audience. And then Wow PP will take the rest of the world. And it's great. So it's in the library. And we found that people love to watch other versions of Drag Race because I think drag is a sort of universal language. I mean, you don't even have to, I can't speak.
So you don't have to answer this question, but I'm very curious. How many subscribers do you have?
About 10.
God, it's like asking us how much we weigh.
Oh, I can guess that, but there we are. But okay, let me ask it another way. Is it making money?
Oh my God.
Oh yes. Did you hear that? Oh yes. Okay, fantastic.
I think the key is, there are a lot of stories about the streaming wars and how many billions have been spent. And I would look at that model and say, people who have billions can afford to spend them on enormous amounts of content, which ultimately perhaps has not done anyone any favors. But it is actually possible, and Wow PP is that, to run a streamer, a small streamer, a specialty streamer, with a really stripped down infrastructure without losing money. And then that's the thing. And even, being very candid, we have talked in the past to investors, and they have said, well, what you've done is great, but streaming, it always turns into a money pit. That's what they've
always underestimated what we're doing. So any conversations we've had about outside money coming in, it's been like, why would we do that? Yeah. And it is, we're not going to take down Netflix. We don't want to. We are this artisanal streaming platform. Yeah. But we're making enough to grow it. We're making enough to create more content for it. And we're making enough to finance a lot of big docs that we're doing right now that we haven't taken out to market that What a wonderful ecosystem you built. We're lucky.
Well, you're not lucky. You're bloody bright, and you're clever, and you've been at it for a
long
time. But you're insightful.
And we work with so many super smart people.
Yeah.
It is a village.
And I think finding ways to reinvent production and really keep costs down. I do think that's the future. And in many ways, what is happening is terrible in terms of a well-established TV industry. But on the other hand, there are so many more creators now, and the technology that people have at their disposal is so incredible.
Well, I think I've always thought. So we all have teenage children, and they speak in images. They can use the phone before they can speak. And I sort of think the greatest documentarians, the greatest photographers, it's this generation because they're visual. They're visual, as you say. In your fantastic book, which if you haven't read, if any self-respecting student of television should read. You should read Screen Age. It's absolutely brilliant, which is actually not screen, it's Video Age that we're now in. It's a fantastic history that you've written of popular culture on telly. An amazing piece of work. But what's the end game? What's next? Are you just going to keep going as sort of World of Wonder Presents? Because you said, investment has been hard to raise. But I'm sort of surprised that you haven't had people knocking on your door going, can we pay you 12 times earnings and buy your company? Because you have done something very different too, and you've shown the opportunity and potential. Now, you truly are. You know you are sort of extraordinary in terms of what you've done and how you've done it and how you've been true to it. But does that only, and even you've got a good team, what's the end game for you guys?
That's a really good question. We should have a really specific one, but we don't. And it's part of the way we've always worked. It's very organic. Now, if someone came knocking at our door and said 15 times, I think we might answer it. But it's exciting to do what we're doing. And I think that's almost enough, right? I mean, we're not young. We are getting a little tired, but
we're still young, aren't we? We're still relevant. You are, anyway.
I think you're right. Like, there is no real end. I mean, obviously you're going to die at some point, so that's the end game.
That's how I put we'll end on.
No, I mean we do talk about how we're not
the
being
kids
coy.
take over.
We talk about like, oh God, we should have it. Like, we should be planning for the kids, for the business, for the legacy. But we just are more busy doing what we're doing.
And it's such an interesting time. Like, it is, I think everybody is suddenly on the same level, whether it's a legacy company like the BBC and the most highly paid executive there, or an independent producer starting out. Because all the rules and all the traditions and clarity about how things should work is gone. And so, in a way, this is not the time to get to disappear. It's like...
Oh, I'm not suggesting you disappear. I'm just amazed that nobody has sort of come heading your way.
Well, maybe that's,
Or maybe they have, but they just haven't done 15 times, but there they are. Now, I've got a few final questions I can ask you, but this audience has been very attentive. You haven't fiddled around too much, because if you did and started moving, we would have wrapped it up a bit quicker. I know there's a QR code up there. Will you prepare to take a few questions from the audience? If you want to ask questions, you don't have to. I can continue asking questions. I'm conscious it's lunchtime. Apparently, some of you might be sort of slightly shy, so use this to ask questions. Oh, we've got some. Ooh. But instead of being anonymous, actually, that's interesting. I quite like this. Tia Anna Soras Recht of Sheffield. Quite like her question. Or his question, I don't know. Their question. So, happy for a few questions? Does Tia Anna Soras Recht want to identify themselves? Hey, yes? So, go ask your question. Oh, sorry, we've got to get a mic to you. Please, just hold that. Is that all right? You all right? Just do your question. It's all right.
Yes, there it is. I'm actually the LGBT representative on the South Yorkshire branch of Equity, the Actors Union as well. Just thought I should mention that, so I'm very keen to be here today. But anyway, my question was that, observation I made for a long time, ever since it became a big success, even before Drag Race UK, that the world of drag increasingly nowadays resembles the world of soccer, where RuPaul Drag Race, or the Runiverse as it is called, very much resembles like the Premiership and the Champions League, with enormous wages or success, or enormous amounts of appearance on TV and all the rest of it, and appearances at Prides and all the rest of it. And then a lot of us other drag acts, including me, myself, I'm proud to have been a winner of some small drag contests, and also I have been a a city winner in Drag Idol a few years back, a couple of times, a city or regional win. But I've missed entering it a few times since the pandemic, but I will be back hopefully next year. But anyway, the thing is, even people like me who've, sort of got to a respectable place, say in national drag competitions like Drag Idol, we're kind of struggling a bit like the Saturday League in football, where we, sometimes we might break through, and sort of win the FA Cup or whatever, like the equivalent to that, I think, would be getting a place in Drag Race UK, but it's very difficult because I have tried to enter Drag Race UK myself on a couple of occasions, but the entry window is very, very narrow, and it seems to be fiendishly difficult to find out how to enter it. So obviously, I'd appreciate any advice or tips or actual website for it afterwards, from any of you, because I'm still wanting to enter it, next time round. But anyway, would you agree with me that it is a bit like other sort of very big ticket TV events worldwide, like soccer?
Okay, thank you for your question.
Well, I'll jump in.
Yeah, please.
Thanks. And we will, worldofwonder.net, I'll give you some information afterwards, just in terms of the casting. But, the great thing about the success of Drag Race is just that more people know and are accepting to drag. But the flip side of that is exactly what you're saying. There's, so many drag queens have a much more successful career and are making money, but not everyone, and like yourself. But I think our goal is to just keep building that universe and just I think visibility and exposure is better than nothing. And we are very sensitive to that. And there are examples, increasingly, we try and broaden, in all the franchise, in all the different countries, we just try and broaden who's on the show. We've recently changed the format of All Stars in the US to be, actually, it's funny because it's kind of like a sporting event. It's brackets. But we did that so that we could have more queens on TV.
For more episodes.
For more episodes. And it's been great because even some of the queens who've been on Drag Race, they get eliminated the first episode or the second episode, and then they're like, oh, it doesn't pay off quite the same. There's an imbalance. But we've been able to give some of them, like Nicole Page Brooks, who I love, exposure, and it's been great. So just please know we're sensitive to it, and we're doing the best we can.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Does anybody want to ask a question live, or I'll come straight? Anyone just put the hand up? We've got a burning question. If not, I'll go to... There's one down at the front. Please, where? Oh, sorry. This lady here. Thank you.
Hiya. With the talk earlier about how you guys met RuPaul, the formation of World of Wonder, and then now we've come to just talking about how you're going to maybe think about winding things down. Have you ever thought or been approached about making a TV show about the formation of World of Wonder and you guys getting together? And who would you like to play yourself?
Good question. Good question. That feels like a question. It's the end of your career. Hopefully it's not. Although it isn't.
Well, when Randy was younger, he looked like Kevin Costner, I think.
What went wrong? No. I'm joking.
And now you're supposed to say who would play me.
Oh, that's so difficult. I would need some time to think about that.
Okay.
It's bound to be rude, I'm sure. No, actually, I don't think we have thought about that, to be honest.
Although, there was once when a network came to us and tried to persuade us to do a reality show at World of Wonder.
Yeah, we could have been the housewives of
It could have been.
Yeah,
Beverly Hills.
That would be taking things probably
we said no.
just too close. Yeah. Ryan Murphy. Oh, yeah, Ryan Murphy. Yeah. Happy.
I
I'd
think
take
he's
that, wouldn't you?
been
Say yes.
kind of inspired by some of our work.
Good question. Thanks. They're going to think about that, so that when they're asked that question again, they'll have the answer.
We'll have a good answer.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
thank you.
there's an interesting question, anonymous, but you don't have to be anonymous. You might say, now I'm going to reveal who I am, which was, will there be more output similar to Murder in Glitterball City? Also, the screening was incredible. How many of you seen that? Did any of you go to that screening? Yeah, was it incredible? Yeah, yeah, those who went did. So, any more Murder in Glitterball City style shows?
Yes, actually, there is.
What's coming up next? Give us a preview of what's coming up next.
Well, true crime just seems to be this
there.
juggernaut genre, and years ago we did Party Monster, which you could say was a true crime story. But I guess with true crime, we've always looked for the sort of what is a story that's, I don't know, either sort of just not typical true crime. It isn't always about the blood and the gore and the violence. I remember once pitching a commissioning editor a true crime story, and they said, yes, it's always much better if there's a dead body. Because this was financial crime, and they were like, that's not true crime. It didn't count. But we've got it as we did with Ronan, Catch and Kill, which is about his story of getting the story about Harvey Weinstein out into the world. And it's sort of adapted from his podcast. And we've completed a new series that hasn't yet been announced, but Ronan talked about it the other day. So, following a private investigative firm out of San Francisco who worked on these iconic cases from the 60s through the 70s into the 80s. And another one that we're actually working on, which is about it's not.
It's
called
true crimedy. We're
Yes,
calling it a
it's a
crimedy
crimedy.
because it's did the crime happen? Didn't it happen? There are no bodies,
Right.
but it's really ends up being this sort of rabbit hole of this incredibly charismatic and challenging character, a woman. It's called Not a Very Good Murderer, and her relationship with Ronan. So we're very interested in true crime, particularly like in Murder in Glitterball City, if it's got character and something other than procedural crime, which isn't as fun for us.
Okay. Good. Thank you. A few more questions have come in. I'm trying to think some I'm not sure if I should ask. They are quite personal, so I might skip over those. Sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm not going to ask those. I'm sorry. But, it's about what you did at Oxford, Fenton. Well, I'm not going to go there.
Let me see that.
What did you stuff?
What did I stuff?
I
don't quite know how to answer
No, well,
that.
exactly. So I'm looking at it thinking,
God,
it's
wow.
anonymous. Anybody, would that anonymous like to identify
I think it
themselves?
came from right around there.
Exactly.
I think it
Oh my
was.
God,
I
red
think,
face.
I think it was. What did you study?
Somebody said, what did you stuff? I thought it was a bit rude, a bit personal. You want to tell,
Well,
you tell them what you studied.
I
You tell them what you
studied
stuffed.
English. I
Oh,
studied
there we are.
English,
But there we
yeah.
are. And then a question.
And I didn't stuff anyone, so.
Well, that's a lie, but there we are. So,
True.
a random question here. Whatever happened to Jeffrey Morantz?
Jeff who?
Morantz. Do you know?
I don't know.
Not best friend.
I
Not
don't
somebody
know.
you stuffed
Is
that you
it-
can't
I
remember?
don't know.
No, okay, well, we'll skip over that. Okay, I think we are coming naturally to the end of this.
I think so.
But I want to ask two final questions. I'm always interested when you have been so focused and so successful, because we all do it. We look at things thinking, if only I'd done that. Is there any show or series that you think, I wish we'd done that, or no? You say, actually, we've done and we're doing exactly what we want. It's always interested to know what folks covered. Need to think about that one.
So, well, a show that someone else made.
Yes, yeah. that you think
I think
that's a
all the time we think that. Now I can't think of a specific example, but
Well, you love White Lotus.
yes.
Oh, we all love White Lotus.
Succession.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
The things I watch are really, like, it's funny, I watch a lot of scripted stuff and love.
Everything that
Professional.
Mike White's done,
Yeah.
I think. Mike White, whose father is in the Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a preacher, a gay preacher. A preacher who then came out as gay.
His father was Ronald Reagan's speechwriter, or a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan, who came out, was ostracized, exiled from the political community, and yeah,
Great
became
story.
a
Maybe
became a
story that you
pastor.
can-
Yeah.
And then just one final question from me. I can't remember where I read this. It might have been in Screen Age, but I thought that's so World of Wonder. But is it true that right in the beginning, when you were in New York, and it was the 80s, as we said earlier, and an infinite amount of excess and possibility, and Donald Trump was on your radar, and you wrote to him, Fenton, and said, I'd like to do a series with you. And the response you got was, Mr. Trump is not interested in being on television. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Have you got that letter and that email? Because
I've
that should go
got
into
to
the
find
next
it
book.
because
It's a great story.
But it is correct. Yes.
Listen, I think we've been entertained by two gentlemen who are at the top of their game, who are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human beings. Thank you for being so insightful, for being really good game, answering some cheeky questions, and congratulations on what you've done and built, and we continue to look to you for being a North Star of what can be achieved. Thank you.
Good. God.
Thank you, Dawn.
Right. I think you're going to be